Whoops. How are you all are doing today? I'm Willie Bragg. Welcome to the Willie Bragg Show. I know it's early, 4:30 in the morning. Is early, but hmm, I'm not so sure if I'm digging the background scene just quite yet. So let me do this real fast here. When you use these softwares, you got choices. So is that better? Or maybe this is better. I don't know. What the hell? Let's go with what I know. Or this. One more. There we go. Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. I kind of like this. Very comforting. Very comforting. But anyway, I'm Willie Bragg. I hope everybody's doing well today. And I'm up early this morning because I'm on a road trip, spending time with my family. They come here a couple of times a year visit, so I'm going to spend a little bit of quality time with them when I'm done with this live stream. So I figured let's go ahead and get this done early enough. So anyway, let's talk about Glenn Greenwald, and we know who Glenn Greenwald is. Obviously, Glenn Greenwald is a civil liberties attorney. He's a journalist, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, and he's he's been at the thick and thin of it when it comes to some of the people that he's worked with and corresponded with over the years and everything, and he's really liked by a lot of people that supports him, and he is detested by a lot of people who already hates him. And there are people who used to hate him that likes him now, and there are people who used to like him now hates him. So the world's not a logical place. If the world was a logical place, they would have they would listen to me, and everything would be different in this world. So, and I'm not saying this in any grandiose, self delusional way or anything like that. I'm just talking about some common sense things that our country and our society and our world need to do to be a better society, a better country, and a better world. And I've often joked and actually was serious at the same time when I say that people like Glenn Greenwald is the Julian Assange among us when Julian Assange was locked away all these years in prison at Belmarsh. And there are other notables out there aside from Glenn Greenwald. I mean, we got the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Matei. We have people like Garland Nixon. We have people like various journalists out there. And the thing is that they're carrying on the fight for civil liberties, for free speech, to not be hassled by our national security industrial complex, if you will, the censorship industrial complex, the military industrial complex, the socially conservative industrial complex, if you will. I would say even the liberal woke industrial complex. Any kind of entity that's out there to target people, we are opposed to, and we should be opposed to. I mean, the Trump administration is talking about creating a database to monitor all Americans and everything they do in terms of of correspondence and everything like that, as if that's not happening already, as bad as it is. And Edward Snowden exposed all that, and some thought he was a traitor, and I thought he was, basically based and a hero for exposing a lot that we kind of knew all since 9/11, and it's some is more lunatic-based response to how to deal with terrorism. You deal with terrorism by not encouraging it. That's simple. And it should be so simple that people should get that concept. You'd be surprised, and maybe not, that people don't get that concept. So anyway, let's get to the meat and potatoes about Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald, there is some controversy with Glenn Greenwald. It's not controversial to me. I don't think it's controversial to this audience here. We all know that Glenn Greenwald is gay, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal in the year 2025. Oh, in the year 1985, it would have been scandalous. But in the year 2025, it's not a big deal. And honestly, anybody who thought it was a big deal in 1985, that's on them. What I'm going to say is, and I hate to repeat a line that people said in the early days, in recent years, when LGBTQ people were accepted. I don't want to make it out about Glenn Greenwald's sexuality. He's an individual. I don't care what he did. I don't care how he likes to spend his private life, and I will get to that in a second. But the thing is, it's fucked up that, I'm saying this during Pride Month, that what he likes to do behind closed doors is his business, not the business of the whole wide world. And I do think that Glenn Greenwald they attempted to blackmail Glenn Greenwald. And I'm going to play you this Nico House video, and I like the way he presented it. I think it was profoundly well said. And it's a few days old, but I think it's still relevant. So we will go ahead and play it.
Breaking news, everybody.
Hold on.
Breaking news, everybody. 2 consenting adults had sex, and one of them just so happened to be a journalist. Oh my God! Yes, somebody leaked a tape of Glenn Greenwald having consensual intimacy with another adult. And yeah, Glenn released a statement about it, but I think I speak for everybody when I say we don't need to read all that, because 98.999% of us don't give a flying fuck if Glenn Greenwald has sex. What? First of all, videos like this, pictures and photos like this don't leak about famous people unless there is some type of motivation behind it. And in this particular case, we know the motivation is political. We know it's probably because he constantly speaks out against Zionism as one of the very few popular Jewish personalities who constantly condemn genocide in Israel. And considering how much Glenn speaks out against Israel, and we've already seen this playbook before by them, no one would put it past them to leak something like this, trying to discredit Glenn's years and years and years of amazing journalism because he has consensual sex.
Israel is the #1 recipient of NSA technology and NSA intelligence. We share more with Israel, even more than we do with the Five Eyes partners who developed this technology. We give more to Israel, more intelligence, raw intelligence about Americans as well. But at the same time, the documents that describe who are our greatest intelligence threats, who are our greatest intelligence adversaries, who spies on us the most, who is capable of spying out the most, #1 on the list is Israel as well, which I simply mean to say that Israel uses every weapon at its disposal, including gathering incriminating information about its enemies.
He doesn't recruit his sons to sell kosher dildos while attempting to grow a beard that resembles pubic hair that someone had attempted to cut but gave up halfway through because it hurt too much. And if you think I'm talking about Rabbi Shmuley, that's on you, not on me, and that's exactly what my lawyer is going to say if he tries to sue me. Do you know who I judge in situations like this? Not the person consenting to have sex in a video. I'm judging the person who thought it was a good idea to leak a video of someone having consensual sex. Because what the hell? Like, are we supposed to be shocked that adults do adult things? Shit, if anything, I'm happy for my boy. Go ahead, get yours, big dog. Shit, I had sex last night, and may I say, it was phenomenal. I should have recorded it. Then maybe I can have somebody leak it and I can be trending like Glenn is right now. Because the only thing that y'all are going to achieve is have a bunch of videos and articles from Glenn Greenwald that's exposing the establishment, the elites, and the Zionists trying to blackmail him. And now he's going to be more famous now than he was before, if that's even possible. But just to be clear, on a serious note, Glenn does get his own reality TV show now, right? Because that's what happens when someone leaks your sex tape, right? It's supposed to be keeping up with the Greenwalds now. But I'm just going to say, Glenn, não esquece. A gente ficamos na mesma cidade. Então, se a série rola assim e você consegue um contrato com Netflix ou algo assim, ei, chama seu irmão, não esquece. Porque eu estou tentando me aposentar também, cara. Se você consegue um contrato com Netflix, uma série, I'm trying to get rich too. I don't want to have to leak my own sex tape for me to be trending on Twitter all over the world. That's all I'm saying, dog. Don't forget me, is all I'm saying. But in all seriousness, man, keep doing what you do. Nobody cares about your personal life. If anything, the only people who do care are Zionists, disingenuous actors, and dudes whose little wee-wees probably don't work, so they couldn't make their own sex tape even if they wanted to.
And of course, that was Nico House. Basically, I'm basically in agreement with him. I mean, nobody cares nor should care about his sex life. And I don't know what I'm thinking about, I mean, I would feel odd if somebody was making a video about my sex life whenever it happens. But the thing is that the thing about this is politically motivated. This is why I'm making the video, because it is part of a culture war thing in America. And what he has to say about that, about the motivation, fits into the foreign policy area of things, and also fits into the culture war that kind of go hand in hand, especially since after 9/11 took place, the response to 9/11 and everything of that nature. I could go get really complex how Trump sort of threw a demented monkey wrench into the situation, where things are not as consistent as it's been, but still, you still would live with the same shit, that happens day to day, month to month, year to year, decade to decade. So hold on here, and there's a story. It's from Ross' story. And it's basically journalist comes clean after explicit videos released online. God, I hate sounding like I'm one of those paparazzi people, whatever, that sits there and talk and go into sensationalist headlines and what have you. And that is certainly not my motivation. I promise. Anyway, this is by Jennifer Bowers Bonnie. And I'll tell you what, I'm a little tired, so I'll go ahead and play this video, the audio.
Journalist comes clean after explicit videos released online. By Jennifer Bowers Bonnie. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Glenn Greenwald, known for his reporting on classified documents leaked by Edward Snowden, is receiving bipartisan support on social media Friday after coming clean about the online release of private and explicit videos. Greenwald released a statement on X Friday about the images that he said were published without his knowledge or consent. Though we do not know exactly who is responsible, we are close to knowing, and the motive was a maliciously political one, Greenwald wrote. He continued, as for the content of the videos, I have no embarrassment or regret about them. The videos depict consenting adults engaged in intimate actions in their private lives. They all display full consensual behavior, harming nobody. Obviously, it can be uncomfortable and unpleasant when your private behavior is made public against your will. That's why the behavior is private in the first place. But the only wrongdoing here is the criminal and malicious publication of the videos in an attempt to malign perceived political enemies and advance a political agenda. Journalist Josh Marshall, whose 360,000 followers that include prominent Democrats, wrote, "I disagree with and more than disagree with so many things you've said and done over the years, Glenn. But this is 100% your own business. And I applaud and support your telling everyone that." Exclusive. Author at dbenner83 called Greenwald one of the greatest heroes of our time, a true journalist in an age of propagandists. Conservative filmmaker at Cernovich wrote, "Glad that I've been out of the loop and missed this. Sorry you've been targeted in this way. Showing moral courage is important, because blackmail only works when people live in fear, which is what the powerful want and demand via other coercive ways." Another conservative journalist at Elaine Aaron posted, "The evil done against Glenn here will backfire severely. Most especially because he's a good person," while liberal journalist Ed Krasenstein wrote, "So sorry to see this." A self-described libertarian at Gottakeetle warned Greenwald, "You should have known, ever since Snowden, Assange, and the existence of surveillance tools like Pegasus, that nothing on your device is ever truly private. Given your critical reporting, it's hard to understand why you'd film such disturbing content in the first place."
Okay. And here's a statement from Glenn Greenwald from Twitter. Give me a second here. Yeah. As you can see, he reported it, and and explaining the situation. And here's the thing. I want to say, do I think that some intelligence agency, either in the U.S. or elsewhere, may be responsible for this? I'm not trying to be a conspiracy nut, but I wouldn't pass any agency that would go and do this. Any intel agency in this country or around the world that finds Glenn Greenwald's politics problematic. He's obviously problematic to the American empire in many ways. He's problematic to the what Israel perceive as their national interests. He currently lives in Brazil, and while Bolsonaro was in power, his life was threatened by the government. And Lula da Silva is president today in Brazil because of Glenn Greenwald. He worked with other attorneys to go and to take this up to the Brazilian Supreme Court. And I think it was in 2020 when this happened. I think it might have been on my birthday. If I remember correctly, I think it was like in March 2020 when this happened. It was like 5,000 political prisoners were set free by the Brazilian Supreme Court. And Lula, I believe, was one of them. And again, Lula has stated in the past that he's a free man because of Glenn Greenwald today. Now, we know why the U.S. national security state finds him problematic, because he's defended people like, he's been in the defense of various clients and worked with various clients against the national security state. People like he's worked with Chelsea Manning, who worked with Julian Assange to put the information into WikiLeaks, and I never understood why the information that was being on WikiLeaks made him a target to have him arrested, to put him in prison. But some of the material and content ended up in papers around the world, and they weren't in trouble, nor they should be. But neither should have Julian Assange. And the thing is that Chelsea Manning was pardoned. I'm glad she was pardoned. And Ed Snowden had to move out of this country. In fears of what would happen to him. And so this is why, I think it's politically motivated. Also, add to the fact that although secular himself, culturally, or I guess ethnically, you could say Glenn Greenwald is Jewish. And he has a problem with the treatment of the Israeli government against the Palestinians in Gaza, and overall the suffering Palestinians suffer from. So much so that Ben Shapiro called him an anti-Semite once, and I'm sure he called him that multiple times, or what some people call the self-hating Jew, or what have you. No, human rights are human rights. I mean, on my dad's side, the ancestors came from the British Isles. I think Margaret Thatcher was the worst prime minister ever. Do I hate Great Britain because people voted for Margaret Thatcher? No. So I do not think that Glenn Greenwald hates himself because of what Netanyahu and some of the people in his cabinet who makes Netanyahu look like Noam Chomsky by comparison. You tend to want to protest against injustice. The abolitionists that fought against slavery in the 19th century, were they self-hating white folks because they thought slavery was evil? No. I mean, were the Germans in Germany who opposed Hitler, were they self-hating Germans because of what Hitler did? Absolutely not. I don't care what group you belong to or what nationality you are or whatever. When you see an injustice, you go and you challenge that injustice. And that's what he's done. And I think maybe the motivation over, and I will type in the word, that intel agency in another country. I will type in that word as I said. Okay, this word here. Could it be that this organization decided to go and leak this video out to basically make Glenn Greenwald look bad? I don't care. I don't care what he's wearing. I don't care who he was doing this with. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Because they were two consenting adults. Two consenting adults in the privacy of his dwelling. Can't even accuse Glenn Greenwald being unfaithful. His husband died a few years ago. So could it be that maybe because Glenn Greenwald has been influential in changing some conservative opinions in recent years, and some people on the left fault Glenn Greenwald for having a civil relationship with certain conservatives in certain forums, as if Glenn Greenwald is converting to that conservatism. And that's not the case. Do I agree with Glenn Greenwald on everything? Absolutely not. I do not. Citizens United, I thought he was fucking wrong on that. He has some issues about trans women in participating in sports, women's sports. Again, I disagree with Glenn Greenwald on that. But Glenn Greenwald basically is a true fighter in the sense that he is a free speech absolutist, that he believes that the government should sit there and target you. Again, what's it called? Planet Terror or whatever it's called, that Trump and company trying to set up, that's going to go and spy on everybody way more than we've been spied on in this country and I guess around the world. For those in MAGA that talked about the deep state under Biden, listen, I was with you about the deep state under Biden because I oppose the deep state altogether. I oppose the deep state when Democrats are administrating it, and I oppose the deep state when Republicans are administrating it. And right now, It is no longer Biden's deep state. It is now Trump's deep state. And let me make a disclaimer. In the month of June, this is my first video in June, and I need to make this disclaimer real quick, that because I criticized the Democrats while Biden was in power, at times more than the Republicans. Right now, when the Republicans are doing things, because they're in charge, when the Republicans are doing things that are fucked up, I'm going to criticize them too. I don't care about the goddamn party. I don't care. What I care about are the actions. You know, people like Thomas Massey, for example. I don't vote Republican, but I do respect people like Congressman Thomas Massey. Obviously, we disagree on economics and shit like that. I'm not a libertarian. Well, I'm not an economic libertarian anyway. But he's great on issues like not taking money from AIPAC or taking money from whatever other special interests. He's pretty damn clean. He believes in free speech and right to privacy and all these issues. Opposed to drug war, opposed the trappings of the national security state. And on that front, we're allies. His opposition to Medicare for all or labor rights, I'm going to be civil in this setting here, because I don't want to ruin it by what I would think of him on this issue, because it's definitely the opposite. So Glenn Greenwald has won the favors of people like Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson, whatever. And you hear some conservatives like, "Oh, I like Glenn Greenwald. He's anti-war for all the reasons." Listen, if you got some people from MAGA or people on the right that we disagree with, obviously, all the time about, but there's that 10% where they have been convinced that they see eye to eye on being anti-war or being for civil liberties, not wanting the deep state to encroach upon Americans. Because support for the deep state and opposition to the deep state now is no longer partisan. If we agree with them on that 10%, let's work with them that 10% of the time. But the 90% of the time where they're wrong, they can go fuck themselves. I'm talking about the right. So I'm making that distinction. And there's a little bit of a contrarianism because, at times during the Bush-Cheney years, it was almost universal among the conservatives and the right to support the domestic surveillance and torture and to invade every country that blinked at us the wrong way, to do that sort of thing. And now things are a little bit different. When Obama came in, they started to change. Some of them, you still have some people like Dick Cheney around grumbling, but he ended up becoming a Kamala Harris cocksucker last year. The world is crazy. It is crazy. Some of the neocons became Democrats, and all of that. There were always neocons in the Democratic Party. There were, are you kidding me? Yeah, maybe some of them who are not like evangelical nutcases, who are more secular. I guess like Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney came into the Democratic Party at least in this election cycle, the last election cycle. Okay, whatever. I still have the same shitty opinion of them because, they obviously. They disagreed with Trump on January 6th, which they're correct to be, but they don't like Trump because, they actually think Trump is to the left on some areas. Remember, Liz Cheney voted with Trump 93% of the time. And Mike from PA, there's a streamer named Mike from PA, he once said that he bet that the 7% of the time Liz Cheney voted against Trump, it were issues where she was to the right of Trump. So. But anyhow, but again, they're trying to embarrass him and do whatever it takes to, and I remember he was attacked on a radio talk show host, right-wing talk show in Brazil back in 2019, I think it was. And so, this is par for the course. The guy, the radio talk show host, assaulted him. What, for being possibly, he thinks it's problematic that Glenn Greenwald and his husband at the time, David Miranda, were raising two kids and wanted to make a big issue out of this. What does their raising the two kids have to do with anything? They're heterosexual relationships where both people in the marriage works too. So what? If anything, that could mean you need to criticize capitalism more than anything else. That's forcing people to go and work to make ends meet. And here's the thing: those people who think that Glenn Greenwald went right wing, I got news for you. He's never, ever claimed to be, quote unquote, far left. Was he at one time maybe a rubber stamp Democrat, obviously? And I think he has some of those sensibilities still. I don't know the man personally, but that's how I read into his ideology. That he was basically a liberal who was a member of the ACLU, fighting for causes relating to civil liberties across the board. He reminds me of that cliche ACLU attorney. But here's the thing. He's better than that because he continued to live along those, he continued to pursue along those narrow ideological lines. He's a civil libertarian. Now, the ACLU has gone downhill in the last few years. Not totally, but some areas they had disappointed me. But I still overall like the ACLU. They kind of turned a little on the partisan side in recent years, and I find that problematic. You don't need to be partisan. You just need to stand up and do what's right. But then again, there are people who will say the ACLU opposes Trump because they oppose Trump. The ACLU warned Trump that they're going to go and challenge him the way that they challenge every other president since 1920. And Glenn Greenwald is definitely the continuation of that tradition. So anyway, and I want to say this is all about nothing, but I'll share a couple of tweets before I go. Let's do this. Okay, give me a moment, and we'll get underway here with some tweets. Okay. Brianna Joy Gray, obviously, who used to work with Glenn Greenwald at The Intercept, what she had to say on the matter. What she had to say is, I love the one thing we can all agree on is supporting Glenn Greenwald. I had something to say about that. I said, I stand with Glenn Greenwald. He's an important advocate for civil liberties and free speech. When I think of Glenn Greenwald, I think of what was always the best aspects of the ACLU when first getting acquainted with them. The ACLU needs to take lessons from Glenn Greenwald. Friend of the Willie Bragg Show, Politics. He goes by Tone Police Opposition to Genocide. He says, Glenn is the best journalist around. Very cool to see you and Katie Halper sitting in on System Update. Rome from Revolutionary Blackout Network said, he held me down when I was facing 25 years and even donated to get me a lawyer. He's a great man. We love him. So, as I said, and there are some naysayers, and they're good faith actors. The boy can take a flying leap for his COVID idiocy and turfism. So no, I don't support him, but neither do I tolerate the efforts to smear him by attacking his sexual orientation. And this is from the Left Independent. And I agree with him about the COVID and turf thing. I'm don't write Glenn Greenwald off on it. I just disagree with Glenn Greenwald on that. That's all. Jackie, I think some of y'all know who she is. I stand with Glenn Greenwald 100%. So, there are people out there. He's got his supporters, and they're. I don't really have time, but I will say this: that people like Post Left Watch, that goes around attacking leftists, claiming that their leftism is somehow right wing, is just plain silly, So I'm not surprised by Post Left Watch. So if you want to go and see what I'm talking about, go on that Twitter channel and you will see what I mean. But I have to go very soon, but I want to talk to everybody before I leave. And I'm sorry I did this very early in the morning, but I have a road trip this morning. So we have here a friend from college, Barry Motiva, in the year 2025. How are you doing, buddy? Jack Barry, how are you doing today? Earl, what? Well, this is a weird time. I explained that I'm going to take a road trip. So when I'm logging off, I'm going to head on to the mountains of North Carolina. I like the haircut. Yeah, I just actually dyed it this morning. The problem with getting a haircut is when I get it cut really short, and I do this during the summers usually, is that it's kind of hard to dye skin. So I had to let my sideburns and part of the hair that I had seriously cut grow a little bit. So there's that. Glenn Greenwald is the GOAT. Yep. Glenn Greenwald is very base. And again, you don't have to agree with Glenn Greenwald on everything or anybody else. There's not an individual around that I agree with 100%. Let's see. Now, Glenn Greenwald said that he's close to catching whoever leaks it. Stephanie said, I don't always agree with him, but Glenn is one of the greatest journalists of our time. I'm not even paying attention to what they're smearing him with. And honestly, that is my overall, I don't always agree with Glenn. I don't always agree with anybody. There's nobody out there that we're all individuals. And we are all complex human beings. So expect to have disagreements. But I agree with Stephanie. That's a very healthy attitude. You don't have to agree with somebody. Earl says, Stephanie, shocking. A gay man having sex with a man. Yeah, it is. People want to clutch their pearls again like it's 1985. I only see the Uniparty, no better example than Palestine. Exactly. When you had Bernie Sanders and sounding no different from a Ted Cruz on that issue. I mean, I get it. Bernie Sanders lived in a kibbutz years ago in the 1960s, a different time. And he has that. He's from another era where there was a left version of Zionism, labor Zionism, but that ideology is dead, Bernie. You need to come to terms with it. Get out of your 1965 kibbutz. That's what I have to say. Are you going to Asheville? No. In fact, I'm glad you asked that question because I wish Warren was here awake because I'm going to Kitty Mountain. I'm going to Mount Airy this morning, so that's where I'm headed. Anyway, I have to go. So let me just say, we're getting up close to 1,000 subscribers. And I thank you all for supporting the Willie Bragg Show all these years. Since I've been doing this since 2020, and I hope to keep doing this. And because, independent media needs to exist. We need to have a space for independent media because corporate media, whether it's Fox News or Newsmax, or whether it's CNN or MSNBC, Evans and Mercatory, they preach the same shit. They're just two sides of the culture war, but they're corporatists, they're warmongers, and they're for the same thing roughly. And so we need a space to pursue what we think is a better vision, and independent media is the way to go. So with that said, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own media space, because we are the muckrakers of our time. Create your own platform, folks. That's what it takes. And to reject corporate media and its lies and deceptions and divisive politics. And to remember that we need to keep fighting the good fight. Free Palestine, free Edward Snowden, free healthcare for all, supporting free speech, fighting censorship, that sort of thing. And also remember, speaking of Zionism in this video, fuck John Hagee. Until next time, folks, I will see you later. I have to go. I love y'all. Au revoir.